When I came to trim the riverbank here prior to this fishing season starting on the 16th of June, I realised that where we parked the cars, it's got a truly amazing number of wildflowers growing on this piece of waste ground. And I thought I'd just come down and record a few. Now that we're into June, this is the first week of June, we're reaching the last of the flowers, and this is a typical June flower, the dog rose, which covers the hedgerows with these magnificent flowers. And chaffing in the background. All those stamens there. And of course later in the year their fruit are hips, bright red, which are rich in vitamin C. When I was at school, the village school, we collected them, and for every pound you got threepence. That's 3 old pennies. For a free bottle of Del Rosa rosehip syrup. It was beautiful. And then about once every fortnight a big lorry came to take sacks of rosehips away because we collected so many. How they make Del Rosa rosehip syrup now, I have no idea. But of course, as you can see there, they're very, very thorny plants, and picking them was very, very difficult. Tall plant. This tall plant is called weld, and it used to be used in the dye for making dyes. It produces a bright yellow dye. It's very, very common on waste ground. This is one of the many thistles. It's called a welted thistle. It has a lovely thistle flower, beloved of bees. It's a very, very spiky plant. And growing next to it is a much more common spear thistle, with its very sharp thorns. You can see there on the ends of the leaves. But it hasn't yet come into flower. This is another thistle, the creeping thistle. It's a nuisance if you get it in your garden because it spreads by underground stems called rhizomes. Again, it isn't in flower yet, but notice how it's got a smooth stem. Unlike the welted thistle, which has spikes all the way down the stem. Again, it's not yet in flower, but it's loved by bees and butterflies. So on waste ground like this, it's nice to see it growing. There's masses of it. So this hairy little plant, very common, hedge woundwort. And it belongs to the family with square stems, the labiates. The flower, it has a nice little flower. And it has this downy foliage, you can see the sun reflecting on the hairs there. And who could mistake the flowers of the elder? Eventually turn into those dark blue juicy berries for making wine. But if you collect the flowers when the stamens are still a creamy colour before they go brown, you can make a nice summer drink, elderflower champagne. You need some flowers that have just opened. You can see on this flower the stamens are a nice cream colour. It's ideal. You need about 5 flower heads and a gallon of water, lots of sugar and a lemon. We used to bottle it in glass lemonade bottles, and of course the natural yeasts produce alcohol and carbon dioxide, so you get tremendous pressure in these bottles. I had a nasty habit of going bang when you least expected it. You used to have to wrap a towel around your hand before you reached in to get one. But with these new PTFE bottles, it's much safer. Nevertheless, even they've been known to go bang. And of course you can drink it only a couple of weeks after you've made it. It doesn't keep, but it's very, very refreshing. There are several of the umbellifer flowers growing here. They were topped like an umbrella. There you can see the seeds forming on where the flower has been pollinated. Hoverflies like it. You often see them on the flowers. It has a hairy hollow stem. And as lads we used to use it as a pea shooter. Instead of peas, we used to collect the green haws off the hawthorn, very hard. And you could pile them up in your mouth and blow them down these hogweed stems like a machine gun. But you had to be very careful, because also growing on this waste ground, this hemlock, which is a very, very poisonous plant. Ancient Greek Socrates died after drinking hemlock. It has a much more feathery or lace-like leaf. But you only need to eat a few of these, and it will make you very, very seriously ill. Probably kill you. It's recognisable because the stem is very smooth, and it has these purple marks on it. It's one of the most poisonous plants in the English countryside, and although it has hollow stems, it's not something you want to use as a pea shooter. The stem and the root are equally poisonous. This is the leaf of the hogweed. You can see that it's nothing like a leaf of hemlock, so it's not very, they're very easy to distinguish one from the other. There's also burdock, as in dandelion and burdock fame, although whether it was ever used for flavouring fizzy drinks I don't know. It has a thistle-like flower which isn't out yet, and the underside of the leaves are a paler green than the top, and the lower leaves are very, very big. Once it's flowered and sets the fruit, it produces these fruit with hooks, which you can probably see there. Which, if you get them in your hair, are very difficult to get out. And they're also a nuisance if you've got a long-haired dog, because once they're in the hair they tend to break up into individual seeds. What is that? It's a great way of getting your seeds carried to new environments. And in amongst it we have forget-me-not and its beautiful blue flowers. With that lovely yellow centre. Again, it's coming to the end of its flowering season now, and you can see all the fruits below it. There's a nice display of red campions. The colour shows up better in the shade. In direct sun, the colour looks quite bleached. Isn't that a lovely cerise colour? This plant is also very common here. I think it's called mugwort. It has a nice green top, but underneath you'll see that the leaves are a lovely silver colour. Again, it hasn't flowered yet. It doesn't produce a particularly spectacular flower. There are a few speedwell growing on the areas which have been trampled. Quivering in the wind. And everywhere there's masses of stinging nettles, which we tend to frown upon. But many butterflies, caterpillars like stinging nettles, particularly the tortoise shells and the peacock butterflies. And here we have the third of the plantains we've been looking at. This is the broad-leaved plantain, as opposed to the rib-leaved plantain which we saw in the meadow at Leyburn. Another very common plant. But you can see that it has the same pollination mechanism. There you can see the stamens near the top. So all the flowers below there have been pollinated. And it's just the top. There's just those top flowers left to pollinate now. And there you see the male stamens. Nice colour. Purpley pink, blowing in the wind, dispersing their pollen. It's a very hardy plant. Right. And here it's trampled on all year round, but still seems to survive.